Hey, everybody.
Hi, everyone. So welcome. It is the last session of the day. You've made it through day one of Build, and I'm sure some pre-workshop things yesterday. I imagine it's been a long day. Lots of time talking with each other, making connections, going to these wonderful sessions. Now, because it's the end of the day, I think we all just need a break. So humor me for a minute, take a minute, close your eyes if you want to. Deep breath. And now think about trying to debug a regex statement that you didn't write. Did anyone's heart rate just like skyrocket? Yeah, it's okay, Burke. I promise.
Yes,
It's gonna
this
be okay.
moment brought to you by crippling anxiety.
So we all know that frustration. It's pretty terrible. Not impossible, but certainly not our favorite thing to do in the world, because as developers, we like to focus on the fun things like solving difficult problems with code. And regex, while annoying, isn't exactly difficult in the same way that like optimizing your software might be. So in our session here, Pragmatic Tips to get the most out of GitHub Copilot, we're going to show you how Copilot can help you with some of these annoying things that plague you and keep you from doing the development that you truly enjoy doing. So I'm Allison Wines. I'm one of the senior product managers on GitHub Copilot, and this is...
Hey, everybody. My name is Burke, if I haven't met you, and I work with the Visual Studio Code team. And because I have a microphone and no shame, like and subscribe to the VS Code YouTube channel. We post a lot of great content there, a lot of short-form video, because I know that you spend hours like I do just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So
some of us have jobs, Burke.
No, but that's the thing. I have a job, and I still do it. Where's my GMs in here somewhere? Close your ears, don't listen to that. So yes, check us out here. And a lot of the tips that we're going to show you today, you would already know this stuff if you were subscribed. So like and subscribe. All right, enough of that. Enough shameless self-promotion. Moving on. Yeah.
Cool. So you're all in this room. We can go to the next slide.
Gotcha.
I assume most of you made it to the keynote. You've probably heard a lot about copilots in general, and GitHub Copilot has been around for about almost 2 years now since we launched our technical preview. And in case for whatever reason, when you walked into these lovely doors here, you forgot everything about GitHub Copilot, it's effectively your AI pair programmer. Our current offering is super-powered code completions. And so over the rest of the session, what Burke and I are really here to show you is how to get the most out of Copilot. Like any tool, you need to know how to wield it well. Now, say that 3 times fast. And while it feels like magic at times, I know it feels like that to me, there are some tips you can use when the magic isn't quite there. So we're going to give you some tips, tricks, and sneak peeks into how to do that, and some insight into when you should use our classic code completion offering and when you should be leveraging that very, very snazzy chat functionality that you all got access to. So without further ado,
yes, very nice.
Begin.
And as we go in, just a point of clarity here, what you see up here, this screenshot, we call this ghost text. This is the experience that we have today in GitHub Copilot. But we will also be showing you some chat features as we go forward. That's in the preview, which I believe everybody who's here has access to, which is awesome, right? Okay. So, and I'll try to call that out when I do it so you know the difference between the two. We're going to function a lot on the ghost text today. Now, much like all of the AI that is changing everything that we know and is blowing up your Twitter feed and telling you how you can be rich with these 10 easy prompts, GitHub Copilot is powered by these large language models, specifically the large language models from OpenAI. Now, these large language models, or LLMs, are statistical probability machines. And it's important to understand how they work, but we only have 45 minutes. We're not going to go into that. So instead, we're going to give you a mental model for how you can understand them. And you can understand them as essentially supercharged autocompletes. We've been using this technology for some time. But as you know, autocomplete works. Sometimes it works really well, and sometimes not so much. But LLMs are essentially this technology, but just on a much bigger scale. And this is a super important distinction because when you're working with an AI that helps you code, you have to understand that it doesn't actually know what it's writing. All it's doing is trying to predict whatever word comes next based on the information that it has. And that means there are some very real limitations.
Yeah, so I'm going to breeze through this. But let's talk about these limitations. Because in order to use Copilot well, you kind of need to understand when you're coming up against a limitation. And when you understand where those boundaries are, you can navigate yourself away from them or around them. So let's talk about the limits that do in fact exist for Copilot. Anyone who loves Mean Girls, I hope you appreciate that. So training data will impact your suggestions. The suggestions are only as good as the data we have available to train our models. So what that means is for languages that are highly prevalent in open source, such as Python, C#, TypeScript, HTML, those things, you're going to get great suggestions because we have a wealth of data to build this model from. But if you're trying to develop in, say, COBOL, we might have a little bit of a problem there because there just aren't that many projects that we have access to. We can give you some recommendations, but they're likely going to be very specific just because we don't have as much data. And we also know that there is probably some less than ideal code out there, right? I personally can say that there are a number of abandoned projects on my GitHub account that do not have great code. Please don't go look at them. And that means that the model will always have some cases where it's going to give you recommendations that aren't great. We do the best we can, we tune it, but inevitably, things can sneak in. Next up, GitHub Copilot is not your compiler. It does not understand the syntax and the rules of our languages. It is simply a text predictor trying to predict what comes next. And so what this means is your suggestions, particularly if they are partial parts of a function, are not going to be compilable. It might miss that ending brace, it might miss that semicolon, it might give you something that doesn't quite make sense. And it's really crucial to use GitHub Copilot in tandem with the tools like your IDEs and editors that you already use. And again, we're doing our best, but Copilot doesn't have an inherent understanding of the rule set of the languages we're developing in. And finally, the AI can't read your mind. We can take context of what you give us and produce suggestions, but at the end of the day, you're still going to need to help GitHub Copilot figure out what you're trying to accomplish. And so we've talked a lot about what it can't do. Let's dive into what it actually can do and how you can get the most. Burke?
All right, awesome.
Over to you.
So most of the rest of this session is demo, okay? You're welcome. No death by PowerPoint this afternoon. But we should point out here that we're not going to go over sort of the fundamentals of Copilot. This is a more like 300 level, so we're just going to dive right in here. So you can sort of think of the first tip, you can think of the 3 S's, which is single, specific, and short. And yes,
3 tips?
That is 3 tips, crammed into one, 3 S's. So single, as in you're trying to do one thing at a time, think single responsibility. Specific, in that the prompt that you're giving it is specific. And short, in that the answer that you expect back is short. If you nail all 3 of these things, the reliability for Copilot goes way, way up. Now, Copilot can surprise you. Sometimes it can surprise you and do amazing things, but it can also disappoint you. So, if you remember the 3 S's, be more surprise, less disappointment. Let's take a look at how that works.
We are a very realistic session.
Yes, we are.
By the way, there's no smoke and mirrors here.
It's a hype-free zone. Okay, so let's do this. Let's create a function. Let's give it some instruction here that sanitizes out HTML. Okay, and then let's see what happens. And returns a string. Okay. So here you can see Copilot's like kind of confused. It doesn't really know what we want to do next. So we're just going to nudge it a little bit by telling it we want a function. Okay, and it gives us that. But this is not actually what I want. In fact, I don't know what this is. Okay, this is not, right? So what is the problem here? Is it single? Am I trying to do one thing? Yes.
Yeah.
Is it specific? Not, yeah, what was that? Jeez, not really. That was awkward. And is the output short? Yes. Okay, so why isn't it specific? Well, because what does sanitize mean to you, and what does it mean to the AI? It doesn't exactly know what you mean by sanitize here. So let's go back and rewrite this, and we're going to be more specific this time. So let's say create a function that takes in a string, yes, and removes all HTML characters, okay, because that's what we're actually trying to do. Let's see what, okay, returns a string. Again, we need to bump it a little bit, and so look, we're giving you the real deal, right? So this is actually what Copilot is. This is what it's like to actually work with it. So let's go here, and let's say remove all HTML cars from the string, and see if it'll, and return, no. There we go. All right, so this is what it's like to work with Copilot in the real world, okay? Right? There's a height-free zone. This is what it actually looks like. So we got what we needed, but we have a nice regular expression that we can now test to make sure that this actually does this. But this is a whole lot easier than bouncing around to different places and trying to get the right regular expression to do something simple. And in fact, if you're specific enough, right, with your function names, you don't even have to write comments. So if we said function, let's see, function remove HTML cars from string. And then let's see what Copilot gets. Boom! Magic. See, that's the magic. That's the surprise. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, not only did Copilot write this for us, but also y'all, look, whoever comes in next is going to know exactly what this function does. So Copilot can actually help you write more concise and better function names if you're coding with the AI in mind. Okay, that's the most impressive demo you've ever seen in your life. Let's look at another one. So let's look at a longer prompt, right? So can Copilot do CSS? Let's find out. Any huge CSS fans here in the room? Like 3 hands, exactly what I expected. What is wrong with you folks? No, I'm just kidding. CSS is great. Okay, so CSS can be tough though, right? Because there's thousands of properties, and how can you remember every single one? So your second tip is that Copilot is really, really good at patterns and stuff you forgot, okay? Let me show you what I mean. So in this case, we're asking Copilot here for a header at the top, main content, and a footer at the bottom. Let's see what it gives us. All right, great. Not at all what we need. So what do? We nudge it, all right? Let's just start writing some CSS. Okay, perfect. Gives us that. Okay, so far, looking pretty good. Main content area, using Flexbox. I don't even know how to do that myself. Okay, so it looks like this worked. It got it right the first time. Amazing, right? Okay. But what if, in this case, we had a bunch of content here in the middle area? So let's go over to your index file, let's add some. Now in this main content area, if I wanted to add a bunch of dummy text here, I could ask Copilot for that, okay? I could say, give me 100 lines of lorem ipsum. Now, should I do this?
No, Burke.
Why not?
Because 2 reasons. Well, actually 1 reason. The suggestion that Copilot can return is limited. We can't give you entire projects, entire files, and even though 100 lines of lorem ipsum is not complex from a technical perspective, sending 100 lines back to your editor is just a little outside the bounds of what we do right now.
Exactly. Prompt sizes are limited, folks. You can see here, it's like, hey, how about some PHP, buddy? No, not at all. All right, so thank you, Copilot, but no. So actually, VS Code's really good at this. So lorem times 100, we have 100 lines, and this is not at all the layout that I want. What I actually wanted was a footer that's sticky at the bottom, a header, and a middle section that scrolls, kind of like an app layout, right? So at this point, like, I have to go back and kind of start over. It didn't give me the layout that I wanted. So again, single, specific, and short. It's not great at this. Now, let's jump over here to an app that I wrote that I've called Burke GPT. It's just like ChatGPT, but it's just really rude no matter what you say. It's just not very nice in the responses here. But this application has some problems. So first of all, the text area, I know, it's like, sheesh. Be nice, I'm in a presentation. See what it says. Did I hurt your delicate sensibilities? Yikes. My sincerest apologies. Okay, great. So anyway, this text area, look, you can resize it. It's not centered, right? This is kind of a mess. So let's fix this. So again, Copilot's really good at stuff that you've forgotten. For my CSS people, you know this stuff. The rest of us do not. All right, so in this case, what we want to do is just say, don't allow resize. Single, specific, short. Resize none. Boom. Okay, easy enough. Now let's get fancy, y'all. Let's add a subtle drop shadow. I don't know what subtle means to Copilot, but let's find out. Whoops. Very nice. Okay, now let's see. Add a nice border. Now I'm going to be more specific. Add a thin gray border. Border. And there we go. Very nice. And then lastly, the problem here is that this text box isn't centered, okay? But I've set the margin to auto, and this is what drives me nuts about CSS. This is what makes me want to go back to school and start a different career, right? Like, why is it not just respecting the margins? That should work. There's a reason, but I don't know what it is. So I tell you what, let's ask Copilot. Center the element. Let's see what happens here. Display block. Because it has to be, it's an inline by default, and inline elements don't respect margin, right? Don't you remember that? No, of course you don't, and I don't either. This is the kind of thing that saves you hours, okay? Let Copilot handle this tedious stuff for you so that you don't have to go and try to do this. Okay. Let me give you another example here. So it would be nice if, as we're talking to this thing, we have that whole functionality where we hit the up arrow. Golly, it's rude. I need to take the temperature down a bit. And I hit the up arrow and the last message comes back, right? So if we go over the code here, Copilot can pretty much write all of this for us. So first of all, I don't know what the key code is to make this actually happen. So you can see that Copilot is based on the code in the file. It's like maybe you want to scroll to the bottom of the conversation element after you add a new item. That's close, right? That's a very good guess. Not quite what we're trying to do. So let's just say if the user presses the up arrow, boom, key code 38. Oh, golly, it's beautiful. I'm going to cry. All right, set the message box value to the last message. So let's see here. Is that what we want to do? Message box.value? Kind of. But actually what we want is the last message from the array where the role, is user, because these are objects, right? Role is user, role is assistant. Role is user, role is assistant. And if you've worked with JavaScript, you know that this is a struggle, getting things out of arrays. How do I do this? Okay. So what we can do here is just say, get the last element from the messages array where the role is user. And boom, we got it. It's going to filter, and it's going to pop it off, and we've got that last user message. Now, what's really nice about this is that if you leave that comment there, the person who comes after you and has to maintain this, which will probably be you, will know what this piece of code does. So again, Copilot knows the things that you have forgotten and is very good at things like CSS, if you do one thing at a time. All right, goodbye. One last nasty message. All right, see ya. Now, y'all, everything that we're doing here today works in both Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio, right? So use it where you love it, use it where you're most comfortable. Now, in this case, we talked about Copilot loving patterns. So I'm going to collapse this sidebar here for just a minute. And this is an Azure function. And actually, Copilot wrote this code. It's great at writing. I have no idea if this works, but it looks very good. And so we're pulling data from a database, right? Now check it out, y'all. Look at this magic. We're converting the data to a CSV, which is like the hardest thing you can do as a developer. So let's say you've written this, and you're feeling really good about yourself, as you should. But now the hard part comes, because now you've got to figure out how to make this thing run every Tuesday at 5 p.m. And how are you going to do that? With a cron job, right? This is the kind of stuff that just drives you crazy as a developer. You're like, why do I have to do this? All right, so again, Copilot is outstanding at this stuff. So let's highlight this line here, and then I'm going to use the Alt/. Yeah, there it is. So let's ask Copilot. Let's just tell it, run this every Tuesday at 5 p.m. See what happens. Thinking. Okay, we got a response here. So actually, it gives us a bunch of code back. But look, actually here, you can see if I scroll over a bit, we're a little. So we have here a new cron job. So what I'm going to do is copy this. All right, now let's go ahead and paste this in here. And there we go. Now, so Copilot says this runs every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Do you trust that? Do you trust it? Yeah? It was like, yeah, I don't know. No, you should not trust that, okay? So the next tip is trust but verify. All right, so we want to verify that this is actually the case. So how do we do that? There's a couple different ways. One of the ways is we can go back and we can highlight it and we can ask Copilot, again, we can say, what does this do? And let's see what it says. It's a C# Azure function that's running at a specified time. Every 5 p.m. UTC every Tuesday. Okay, but is it really valid to ask the person who wrote the cron job if the cron job is correct? Isn't that what we're doing here? Do you trust it? Don't trust it. But look, your editors have really good tools built in for this. Did you know that there's an extension for Visual Studio where when you mouse over a cron job, it will tell you? And there's one for Visual Studio Code too. So use your editor tools. Trust, but verify. Yeah. All right.
And this will get better and better, right? Our job here is to sell you a realistic picture of how to use this tool. Because any tool that you are using blindly and that you don't understand the limitations of becomes dangerous, right? And so our job here is to empower you to figure out how to prompt it right, how to use it properly so that it really helps you and doesn't hinder you. All right, you good?
You're up.
I'm up?
Let's do it.
Shoot. All right, let's talk about this. So, Burke, short, specific, single. That's nice. The 3 S's. Shows how much I paid attention. I'm just kidding. So, yes, Copilot is great in short and specific, but it also can give you lots of suggestions, and particularly when starting from blank file like this, where you have a lot of boilerplate code, crafting the right comment or the right intent that you're trying to share with Copilot can really help you get there a lot faster. It's the difference between writing a tricycle that's too small for you and riding your speed bike down the road. So the example I'm going to take you through here is just sort of the way I iterate through my comments to give you an idea of how you can craft some of these larger ones and iterate on them as you go. The expectation is the more that you use Copilot, the more you learn how to craft these sorts of comments and the way you provide intent, it's just going to get easier to get them right on the first time. So here I've got a very, I guess, simple prompt, which is create demo data. And Copilot's going to do the best it can. Cool, we've got some libraries here. Great, these seem fair. And cool, it actually has built me a little program here that is, to its credit, providing some demo data, which looks like just numbers. Great. Not quite what I needed, but that's my fault, not Copilot's. So I'm going to give it some more information. I'm going to say using the bogus library. And now let's see what happens. So we get similar things. Cool. We've got this in flight. I'm not really sure why it's using the United States, but you know what? We're going to go for it. We're going to go for it. Not sure why I thought it needed that. Great. We've got customers now. We're getting a little closer. It's got some customer data here. Actually, what I really wanted, though, Copilot, was the ability to just get, just get IDs and emails. All right, Copilot, you gonna work with me here? We're gonna see I am on the hottest of bits. It's thinking.
It's spinning.
It's spinning.
Somewhere in Azure Data Center, it's like,
And you know what? Sometimes, as we know, things don't quite work out on the first time. And when you are one of the product team like me and you're in every feature flag imaginable, sometimes things just happen. But you know what? Maybe we'll give it some more and see what happens here. Maybe if I tell it I really care about, you know what? Sometimes Copilot surprises you.
There you go. Well, it's the Canada rule. You have to include Canada, and then you get.
Yes.
It's tip number nothing.
And so we see here, this looks pretty good. We've got an ID, we've got email. Okay, we are definitely getting closer. Last thing here, though, is I actually want to write it to a file. And we're going to see what happens now. It's thinking just like me at the end of a long day. And here we go. We've got 1,000 users. We've got it here. We have written it to a file. Things look great. And so this is how you can sort of iterate and start to learn the sorts of comment crafting that you need here. And this touches on a really important thing when you hear about any of the AIs. Prompt crafting is key. The information that you provide to Copilot or to any of these models directly impacts the suggestions you get out. So in this case, I was providing just a bit more detail in my comment, but you can also give Copilot information in other ways. So here we've got my pet slice file. This is part of my little demo app to build a little pet store. And I just need to create a slice for pets. Awesome. Copilot, you're doing great. Now you're not doing so great because I know there's a bunch of stuff we need to import. So let's reset here. I'm going to give Copilot a little bit more information to help out. I'm going to open up my Pets API because this is related to the work I'm doing. And I'm also going to go to another slice file that, if I think about this practically, I would probably have open right beside me in my editor anyways, and I'd be looking back and forth and modeling it after this file anyways. Great. So we have this here. Copilot can actually take code snippets from other open files in your editor that seem relevant to the task at hand. And this is a very simple way for you to give Copilot more information, more context, so that it can just grab what it needs and give you better suggestions instead of you having to figure out exactly what to put in the file to make it work for you. So let's give this another shot. Not quite, Copilot. Come on, you can work with me here. Listen, folks, we have always said this is live, and so, you know what? We're going to prime it.
Does not want to play ball.
Does not want to play well, but that's okay. Cool. This is looking a bit more like what we'd expect here. So now I've got my interface here. Now it's chugging along. Sometimes it just needs a little nudge, like me in the afternoon with my Coke. So here you'll see we are building this line by line. And remember what I said about limitations. Copilot's not your compiler. So if I stopped right here, we're going to have problems, right? And thankfully, VS Code tells me that. And we just keep going, and sometimes it's a little bit wrong. So I remove that. And if we do this side by side, here is my pet slice. Here's my counter slice. They are approximately the same, which makes sense because they should be modeled after each other. They follow very similar patterns. And so if you're having a hard time getting the things you need and you are referencing, an implementation, just open up that file and Copilot will grab what it needs to give you what you need.
So this is an interesting thing here, Allison, and since you are the PM for Copilot, I would like to ask you, because I have this question, what does Copilot actually know about in my project? Does it know about my whole project?
Copilot doesn't know about your whole project. So right now, as of today, Tuesday, May 23rd, Copilot will look at things like your file name, which is why you saw in my last demo that my function was often called build, because that was the name of my file. It will look before and after your cursor, so the current file context you're in, as well as any open files in your editor during that session. And it will grab just snippets of code from those other open files in order to craft the prompt that we think will give you the best suggestion.
Yeah, and so it doesn't know about everything, but Visual Studio Code knows about every file.
Yes.
Why can't Copilot know about every file? It seems like an easy problem. What's going on?
Easy if you have unlimited prompt sizes. But as we talked about earlier, we are working under constraints, as all these models are and services are. So we have to be very particular with the amount of data that we send as part of our prompt.
Yep. Awesome.
All right, back to you.
Back to me. All right. So this is the area where we get into more of the chat features, which is the preview stuff that's coming right now. So this is the chat panel in Visual Studio Code. And by the way, in VS Code, we have a secondary sidebar. Did y'all know this?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. And what you can do is you can drag your Copilot over there, and then you can have your project and your Copilot open at the same time, which is quite nice. OK. That was free. You don't even have to pay for that. Now, does it even make sense? All right, so we have this sidebar over here, and we envision that you'll use this as kind of a sandbox, right? So there's a lot that you can do here where you can say, you can ask it questions like, you know, how can I build a web app with Python? And you know, it will come back and it will give you some suggestions and frameworks. It'll even give you code, right? But as developers, we're not usually asking these questions. We already know, right, what we're doing, mostly.
You do?
Well, not when it comes to CSS. Only like 3 people out here. But we know what we're doing for the most part, right? We have projects, but we just sort of run up against roadblocks now and again. So you can use that like this. But let's look at a more real-world example here. So I have a very real-world example of a to-do list, because that's as real world as it gets. So we have a file here, which is a service, but it has a couple of problems. Some of them stand out to you right away, right? So first of all, there's this error here at the top. And if we mouse over this, let's see, where's my, there we go. So these are the kinds of errors that you get, and you're like, I don't even know where to go from here, right? Like, I can't even paste this whole thing into my search engine. So this is tough. Now, TypeScript people in the room, do you spot the problem? If you're a TypeScript person, you may spot the problem. You just raise your hand. Nobody's going to know. You'd be like, yeah, I see it.
We promise we won't call
Yeah,
them.
we won't call on you.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe we will, though.
The problem here is that these things need to be nullable or given a default value. But this error does not tell you any of that. So if you highlight this block, we have the suggestions here in VS Code, and you can see it now has fix using Copilot, right? So Copilot is really, really good, and it's going to paste the whole error message in there. Let's see what it gives us. All right, so exactly, right? So it gave us a default value for these items, and now I can move on with my life. Again, I don't spend a ton of time in my search engine trying to find something. And now here, because you're in your editor, we don't actually make the change for you until you hit Control-Enter. Right? And that's because having the AI change your code is a serious business. We don't want to just do that. And so if I hit Escape, we back out, Control-Enter, we can actually take this. So the last tip that I'm going to give you here for chat specifically is iterate, iterate, iterate. And as developers, you already do this.
All the time.
All the time, every day. And Microsoft, we call it the inner loop. Right? It's the build, it's the run, it's the check, it's the build, it's the run, it's the check. So you're already iterating. You just want to bring Copilot into that process. So for instance, here, the database connection logic is actually in the same file as the service, which is not a great idea. And so what I can do here is just start spitballing with Copilot and say, how can I break this code out into a separate file, okay? Now, Visual Studio Code will do this. It will move code to a new file, but it's not going to bring in any imports. Whereas you can see Copilot here can actually do that, right? It sees we need the Cosmos client, so it brings that over. So what we can do here is say insert into new file, and it even it gives us a name. It's like create a new file called Cosmos DB. OK, cool. Let's take that. Then we'll save this. Boom. Now, the other problem that we have here is that I don't know if this connection is going to be initialized once or every single time the service gets imported into a file. These are the kinds of problems that we come up against as developers in the real world. but I'm not exactly sure how to make sure that this doesn't happen. So I'm going to ask Copilot, how can I make sure this connection is only initialized once? Okay? Let's see what it says. What does it want us to do? It says you can use a singleton pattern. And apparently, here's a singleton in JavaScript, just in case you're wondering what that looks like. I've never seen one. This is the first one. OK. And then it gives us some suggestions about how to use this. But maybe I don't like this, right? But because Copilot knows about all of our chat, it knows about my code, it knows my previous questions, I can just ask it. I'm like, are there any other options? Right? Just like I'm talking to a person. Yeah, there's other options. OK, so here are a few. Now it's recommending databases again. No, it's not Copilot. Stay on topic, please. But I could ask it, like, if I knew a little bit more about the problem, which I do, like, I know that I can attach this to the app instance in Express, but I don't remember how to do that. So I can just ask it, I say, can't I just attach this object to the Express app instance? And let's see what it says. Yes, you can, OK? And that's it. This is the magic line right here, actually. This is all I actually need to do. And then I can reference this connection from any file, and I know that it's only initialized once. Right? So this iterative process in the chat sidebar helping you to solve the problems without actually having to mess with any of your code. It's awesome. All right. For iteration, I want to go back and do one more thing. So let's go back to our CSS demo that just completely failed. So we know here that composing the perfect prompt is not easy. And often when working with Copilot, this is where you get frustrated. Because you compose a prompt, you don't get what you want. You delete it. You compose a prompt that's slightly different. And you just repeat this. And it's just, it works, but it could be better. So let's make it better. So I'm going to collapse this a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to highlight all of this code. And I'm going to open the inline chat here. And I'm just going to ask it. I'm going to start talking to it to tell it exactly what I want. So let's just say, make the footer sticky, because I want it sort of like stuck to the bottom. And let's see what happens here. Let's see if it can do that. OK, kind of. Let's go. Let me scroll down. Make sure the footer is 100% of the width. Let's see if it can do that for us. OK, we're getting better. It's getting closer. We're not quite there, though, because we're still scrolling. Don't let the header scroll off the screen. See what it does there. See if it can do that. I feel like I'm really pushing the bounds here. Oh, look at this. We got it. OK, now the last thing we need to do is make the middle area scroll. So let's just do that. Let's just say the main content area should scroll. You don't actually have to spell things correctly, by the way. It works just fine with typos.
You should try, though.
You should try. So look at this. Right? Kind of, but you can see we're getting closer, right? And if we keep iterating, what we're kind of doing is we're iterating on the prompt, right? But we don't have to get it right the first time because you can't be expected to do that, right? And so this iterative ability allows you to work through, with any of your code. CSS is a great example to get exactly the result you want without having to nail the prompt the very first time. All right.
All right. So with that, let's recap. Burke and I have been talking for a long time. Let's be real here. So if we head back to our slides here, we will give you the quick recap here. So single specific short. If you're just getting started with Copilot, this is your best tool here. This is your best tip. It's going to make sure that you're getting suggestions that you expect. And use Copilot with patterns. Things that are easy for computers and are hard for humans to interpret are things that Copilot loves. So just offload that. Let your Copilot take care of it. Next, trust but verify. Remember, we are still dealing with probabilistic machines here. And so we're always going to be working to improve suggestions and make sure it's right. But you're still in the driver's seat here, and you got to make sure it works. Next up, context is everything. Whether that's figuring out the right prompt to craft, because you really want to use auto-completion in the demo I showed, or you need to open extra files so that Copilot has more to take in for information, give context wherever you can. And lastly, iterate. Whether that's with chat over existing code, whether that's in your own editors and workflows as you are figuring out the right prompting to give it, just keep iterating. Because you do that, Copilot is going to be better, and you're going to be better at using Copilot. A couple shameless plugs for me. If you want to talk with me at some point or our fabulous research team on some new stuff, please sign up for our customer research panel. This is where you get to tell me how much you love or hate what I'm working on. Both are valid. And if you have not signed up for Copilot now, or have never tried it, and you don't want to use that 30-day trial, you can actually try out GitHub Copilot in our new Sandbox Playground experience, where as long as you have a GitHub account, you can head to this link, check out a video from our lovely team, and actually try out Copilot with a sample repository that we've built with you. It's also got a code tour that will take you through sort of step-by-step some of the demos that we've done here, so you can really get a feel for it, and then ideally sign up for a true trial and use it forever.
Yeah, so look, folks, there's a lot of hype about, I love this tweet.
I love this.
There's a lot of hype about AI, right? Like, it's really hard to disambiguate what's actually happening from all the noise, okay? Copilot is not here to do the programming for you. It's here to do the tedious and mundane things that free you up so that you can focus on doing what you do, which is solving very hard problems with very creative solutions. All right, one last slide for y'all. We have a Learn collection we put together for you. There's some videos in there. We got videos on Java, Python, C#, TypeScript, Markdown, COBOL. Just kidding, that last one's not there at all. But scan this QR code, all kinds of stuff for y'all. We want to thank you so much for showing up and staying till the end of a very long day. Please rate this session if you loved it. My name is Burke Holland. This is Allison. If you hated it, I'm Scott Hanselman. Who are you?
Also Scott Hanselman?
We're both Scott Hanselman. All right.
Scott.
Thank you so much. And now we got a few minutes left. We'll take some questions, or we'll chat with you afterwards.
All right, here in front. So the promotion running through Build is for Copilot Chat in particular. And if you have already signed up for the waitlist for Copilot Chat, you should get an email, ideally today, but certainly over the next couple of days as we're adding folks in.
Awesome. So I'm going to take one here off the screen. A feature that needs to be added to Copilot is to scan for security. That's definitely for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So certainly we are working with our security teams. I will say Copilot, we have security tools that are custom built for security. So at this point, I'm still going to recommend that you go with those tools, but we are certainly working with our security team to figure out how to bring those closer together.
Awesome.
Over here.
For our friends and colleagues that couldn't be here, do you have any idea when the Copilot chat will be available?
I cannot comment on that. We are adding people as fast as humanly possible. Big shout out to my Copilot team back in the office while I am here. But definitely keep an eye on it. We are kicking up acceptances pretty rapidly. So we thank you for your patience, and I promise we are working really, really hard to get that to you as soon as we can.
We got one in the back. I hope I'm not going out of order.
Yes.
We got one in the very back.
Very back. So if you go to github.com/featured/preview, I believe, and go to the feature previews page, you can sign up for the Copilot chat waitlist, which you will be granted access to. So do that as soon as possible. We'll be basically comparing waitlist signups with Build attendee signups and adding folks on a rolling basis. Yeah, so be sure to sign up for the waitlist. We'll be adding folks off of that. And also be sure to sign up for any other waitlists that you'd like as well.
All right, they're telling us we gotta stop taking questions.
I'll be definitely at the mixer, so you can come find me
Yeah,
there.
come see us, man. We'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so much.
everybody. Y'all are awesome. Thank you.